Okay, so welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a recap of Tidelands season 1, episode 1. I believe it's called Home. Okay, so it takes place, it's an Australian show, and it takes place in a small fishing town that has some seedy things going on. It starts with, you see someone in the water, and they're cutting loose something and other, and they're bringing it to the surface. Okay, so you get to the surface, and you see this guy on the boat, and he's there with his binoculars trying to figure out, okay, so what are they doing? And they found the barrels, and so you don't really know what's going on. And so he's communicating with someone over the radio, the person you don't know who it is at this point. And they are basically asking him, it seems like he's out there to get intel. And he's like, well, yeah, they just brought the barrels to the surface. We don't know how they found the barrels. And then something starts going on, buzzing on his boat, which kind of gives his position away. And so now he looks back over, and now they're staring in his direction. Now, whether they can actually see him, I can't remember. But so he sees that, okay, I need to get out of here. So as he tries to start the boat to go, it won't start. And so next you know, this woman appears. She fucks this guy up and basically gouges his eyes out. So it's like, oh, okay. And that happens in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the show. Okay, so next we flash to this woman. She's in prison. She's taking a shower, and she's getting herself together, getting dressed. And a couple of women walk in to start some shit with her. And now remember, this is this little petite thing, right? And the women that walks in are these more, heftier, kind of butch women, and they want to start some shit with her. She fucks them up, no problem at all. And then she just sachets on like, okay, I guess that was my exercise for the day. And we found out that she's actually being released today. So, she's released, and then you see her leaving the prison. Of course, no one's there to pick her up, and so she's on her way home. So next thing you know, we see another woman. She's in the desert. She's meeting some woman to pick up some type of artifact. So the woman hands, this cloth over to her, and she opens it, and it's like a piece of something you see was broken off of something. A piece of stone carving. And so the woman was like, so are the rumors true, or stories true about whatever it is that this woman is, why she's picking up this piece? And she says something to the woman, and then she heads off. And so you can tell by just the way that she's dressed as the woman who's there to pick up the piece that she was dressed down and was flawless. And you could see that she is a boss. You could just tell the way she carried herself. She's like, okay, she said a little stuff, and they, parted ways. And so, we flash to the next morning, and Corey, who's a deputy, he's an officer, and he arrives, and Paul is already there. They see the boat is made it to land. It's just there. Paul is saying that it's empty. Corey was like, okay, we'll have to call people in. Paul was like, no, we don't need to do that. He tells him something, and then Corey goes on. And so next Paul ends up calling Augie. Now, we find out that the guy on the boat that had his eye that got all fucked up, his name is Zach. So when Paul calls Augie, it's the morning, and Augie's in bed with a woman, and then she jumps up. It's like, oh shit, Zach will be home soon. So it's like, Augie is fucking Zach's wife. Okay. So he gets the news. He arrives to the beach, and Paul did actually find Augie's body, but of course he didn't tell it to Corey, so Corey doesn't know that. So they now have to figure out what the next move is going to be. And Paul was basically like, he's one of your guys, that's your business, don't make it my business. And so Paul, so Augie and another dude named Bill, they end up taking Zach's body out into the sea and basically just dumping it. So, of course, Augie is pissed because Zach was one of his guys, and he's kind of been left out of the loop. He's like, well, first of all, why was he out? He's trying to figure out why was he out there? What the hell is going on, and what happened to him? So, we find out the woman that was released from prison, his name is Cal. And so she's made it to town, and she's walking through town, and who pulls up? Corey. And so he remembers her, they kind of remember each other, and he ends up giving her a ride. and he drops her off at home. Okay, so while this is going on, um, Augie is meeting with his guys, and so they're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Why was he out there? He doesn't have any information. All he knows is his guy's dead, and it just looks bad. So you see this guy Grayson. He starts talking like, well, maybe Zach got tired of people being the middleman, and he wanted to, go out on his own. He's like talking all this stuff, basically questioning Augie's, I guess, authority, because I guess Augie is the leader. Augie's father was, I guess, the leader of the little ragtag group, and so now Augie's the leader, and so he kind of questioned a little bit, but started questioning his leadership a little bit. Like maybe Zach was tired of being being the middleman, and he wanted to go out on his own and da. And so Augie pulls his gun and was basically laid on the table, like, you know what, Grayson, when you had the opportunity to take over, you didn't. So he put the gun on, and so Augie's in Grayson just sitting there, and he starts laughing. So Augie picks the gun up and he walks out, and Grayson's son, who I can't remember his name right now, he goes out behind him and is like, you know what, just ignore my father. But Augie didn't really think about that. He's more trying to figure out what the hell is going on and why was Zach out there. So Cal goes in the house, and you can see her, she's kind of walking around, and she swipes somebody off to Cal and put that shit in her pocket. She's walking around, and then next thing you know, she comes walking down the stairs. Augie puts a gun in her face, and they have their little battle, and he realized who she is, and he's like, oh, okay. So they starts talking. You find out that Cal and Augie are brother and sister. And she was actually away for 10 years, in prison for 10 years. So at this point, we don't know what the hell happened while she in prison. Okay, so they start talking, and she pulls out their father's will. And basically, the father, she's there to get whatever her share is. So she's supposed to get, she owns, I guess, have a stake in the house, and whatever the business was. And so he's there to change, and to go, he's still trying to get this shit cleared up with his guy, right? So he's like, we'll talk about it later, but right now I have some shit that I need to do. So he goes to some commune looking for a woman named Adrielle. And so Dylan was like, okay, you came here without an invitation. And he's like, one of my guys died, and what happened, and the way that he died, I can tell that somebody on your side on your side of the fence here had something to do with it. And so Zach basically admitted that, yes, he was spying on us, and Leandra, which was the woman, she killed him. He was like, well, why was he out there? And he was like, well, I didn't get a chance. So basically, you killed my guy, and you didn't even get any information. Like, why was he out there? And so now he's just like, okay. He basically started asking about their next delivery, and so they're into drugs or whatever. So Dylan was like, well, we'll have to get back to you on that, but just in the future, remember, don't ever come here again without being expressly invited. So it's like, what's going on here? Okay, so Augie left, and just you see Adrielle, and so she's getting in the car, and she was like, her trip was cut short. She was called back home because of the shit that's going on. And so she arrives home, and she has this briefcase, because she has the little piece that artifact, whatever that was. And she gets to the commune, and of course everybody's welcoming her home. And actually she was talking to her driver, and he was like, just back and forth. And she was like, she was saying that her trip was cut short. Okay, so Cal, she's meeting with their attorney, and she's trying to figure out, okay, what is going on, like, as far as the whatever her father's estate was, including the house and the business or whatever. And he was like, oh, well, it was about $300,000. She was like, well, I want my share. And he was like, well, it was there was a trustee appointed. She's like, well, who was that? He's like, it's not you, so who is it? And then she found it was her mother. She was like, oh shit. So clearly her and her mother does not have the best relationship. And so he was like, well, she she bought a bar. And she was like, wait a minute. Are you telling me an alcoholic bought the raggediest bar in town? So Cal ends up going over to, talk to her mom. And they have a little back and forth. And she was like, Cal was like, well, she's upset because she's like, how do you let the cops take away a 14-year-old? So apparently she went away when she was 14 years old. And she was like, well, after what you did. And she was like, what do you mean after what you told me to do? And her mom was like, I don't know what you're talking about. You didn't come out and expressly say it, but I guess it's one of these where she knew what her mother wanted her to do, even though her mother didn't come out and say it. That's basically what she's saying. And so they go back and forth. And it was, she, ordered her a drink and was basically about to kick there. And she was just there sitting at that point. So Adrielle finally arrives at the commune with the briefcase, and she starts, she walks past Dylan, and you can see Dylan looks like some just lovelorn puppy. It's just the power that Adrielle has wields over him. It's obvious. So she stands up and she gives her, speech about how, I guess she was, during her travel, she was making like business contacts and ways that they can make money to keep, keep the wheels turning over at the commune. And she was like, well, what I found is that keeping things the same basically cuts down on like confusion, and basically we're all good, things are all good. And there was a woman named Viola, which I think that's a beautiful name, Viola. And she asked her, well, so basically, what did you find in your travel? And that's basically when she said, it's best for things to stay standard, the whole thing. And so they, cheered or whatever, and then she went on in the house. And so, Dylan goes in behind her, and he starts telling her about Zach and Augie. And so even she asked the question, okay, well, why was he there? And so he couldn't answer because she said, okay, so basically you and Leandra were just jumped the gun and you killed this guy without even getting any information. And he was like, well, before I knew it, Leandra had already done what she had done, and it was just too late. So okay. And so he tells her about Augie coming over without an invitation, and so she's kind of looking like, okay, is that what we're doing now? So she goes over to Dylan, and she, just looking, she gets really close to him, and basically like, I'd like to be alone now. So even in her rebuff of him, she's still like, it's something very seductive and alluring about her. And so not only is she like, you can see she's the big head bitch in charge here at the commune, it's like she just has this kind of sensuality and sexuality that draws people to her. And so Dylan is caught up in it. Now we don't know whether or not they've ever had a sexual relationship, or it's just this allure, this thing that he has. But she told him like, I'd like to be alone now. And so he looked like, again, like this little puppy, like, oh, okay. So she took the briefcase and went on down into her little tunnel, dungeon or whatever. And then when she finds that there are a lot of little pieces of something that she's trying to put together. And while she's putting it up there, you hear some rustling in the back, and somebody is locked in the cell or something. She was like, I have nothing for you. Go back to sleep. So I'm like, who the fuck she got locked up in the basement? So Cal, we flash back. Cal's still at the bar now. She's had a couple of drinks, one too many. She's a little tipsy and she's dancing and so she decides, okay, she's had enough, and so she leaves. She leaves the bar, and so some guy follows behind her, and I guess he figured he bought her a drink or two or whatever, and so he's owed something. And so he basically tries her, and like them women at the prison, his ass got fucked up. But at this time, Corey was walking out behind the guy. So he basically jumped in between her and the guy and told the guy to go on. And so he was just asked her if she was okay. So I don't know if it's going to be a situation where Corey always had a crush on Cal, but it's going to be that kind of situation. But that's what it looks like it's going to turn out to be. But she was like, I'm fine. Basically you didn't need to get involved. And he was like, well, I just wanted to make sure that you were okay. And she called him, I'm not interested in somebody's pet. And he was like, what? He said, I'm not a pet, I'm an officer. She turns around. She was like, well, I don't know who the person was before Paul. But she was like, Paul was this person's pet, and now you're his. And so they started talking, and you find out why Cal was in prison for 10 years. She killed a cop. Hello. So they said their little whatever, and she ended up going on about her business. So Augie is at home, and next thing you know, there's a knock at the door, and he opens it. It's his mom, and his mother was like, have you seen your sister? And she's here for your money and our money, and And he was basically like, she's not asking for anything that's not rightfully hers. And the mom is basically just don't want anything to do with her. Like, she needs to go some fucking where and leave us alone. So it's no sooner than he closed the door, because he didn't let his mother in. He whips around. Who's standing there? Adrielle. Adrielle ends up fucking him up and throwing him on the ground. And next thing you know, she's on there riding his pony, right? And she was like, did you miss me? So I'm like, oh, okay. Poor Dylan. And Augie is fine shit. Now Dylan is cute too, but Augie's fine as shit though. I'm like, okay, I can see it. I dig it. Okay. But so and next thing you know, he starts moaning and groaning, and it's like, okay, so you hear a little crack, something snap, crackle, and popping. And he was like, you're crushing me. She was like, I know, I'm very strong. And so she was like, she started talking to him about his guy Zach and spying on them, and you coming to the coming without an invitation. And basically that was her warning him, like, don't fuck with me or us like that. So she basically told him, okay, the delivery is going to go down tonight. And she went on about her business. And so he's left on the floor looking all red in the face because girl. Okay, anyway. So around this time, Cal, she's leaving the bar. She went to the dock where the boat went to the boat where the boats are docked. And she went, she's having these flashbacks of when her and her father would get on the boat. It seemed like they had a very close relationship. And so he always told her when she was a little girl, he had this little compartment where he would put money. He was like, well, if ever you're in need, just always, you can always look here, and I'll make sure I keep a few dollars here for you. And so she gets in the boat and she goes there, and it's not a few dollars. It's a whole fucking stack of money that's saran wrap, like a brick. And so next thing you know, Augie walks on the boat, and now they're talking. So now she's asking him, okay, what exactly are you into? Because I know damn well it's not fishing. And so, they start talking, and she decides that he ended up giving her, he was like, it was about $280,000. And so she ends up giving it to him, giving it back to him, like, this is my buy-in. So she wants to be a part of, I guess now, the family business. And so she goes out with him, and they do the delivery. And so, of course, Dylan and Leandra, Dylan was like, well, who is this? And she was like, I'm so-and-so's daughter, Cal's sister. And so now it's like, okay. So Augie is now showing her the business, the ropes. And so they end up, he has to go on a run, and he just tells her, no, at this, you've seen enough for today. Just go home, get some rest or whatever. And he jumps in the truck and he goes and takes care of whatever he needs to take care of. So she finds herself at the beach, and next Adrielle shows up out of nowhere, and starts asking her about, So after they, that whole situation, Dylan goes back with the bag, and, he starts giving her an update, like they did the delivery, and Cal's sister is back in town, and the whole thing. And so you can see she was intrigued. And so next thing you know, you see Cal on the beach, and Adrielle shows up, and she's asked her, like, why are you here? What are you looking for? What are you in search of? And then of course she asked who she was. She said, I'm Adrielle, and we'll see each other soon. Just like, okay, So next you know, Carol's back at the house. She's getting ready to take a shower, and it's like she can hear Adrielle's voice, that whole conversation playing over and over, and it's like kind of making her, having some kind of effect on her. So next you know, two guys jump out of nowhere. They wrap her up in a damn shower curtain, take her to the lake, chain her ankles, and dumps her ass in the water. So she's sinking to the bottom. Of course, she's panicked, and she's trying to get these chains off her ankle. And then for all intents and purposes, she stops moving. So at this point, she's dead. And then all of a sudden, she starts breathing underwater. And so that's how the episode ends. So it's like, okay, what the fuck is going on with these people? What's going on? What's happening? So, It's similar to the freeform show Sirens. I'm assuming that's what this is about, except they don't change like in that show, which I think is supposed to be coming back soon. I think they were renewed for a second season. So that's how the show ended. I don't know how many episodes. I don't know if it's like 8 to 10 episodes in the season. So like I do, I try to watch one episode at a time, because trying to watch everything at one time, it's just too much information, and you start to get shit mixed together, and you mixing episodes up. So I'm gonna try to come back and do an episode a week. But yeah, I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode.